Urban Strife. Is this upcoming game worth your time? Well, do you enjoy turn-based strategy games that require careful planning before your next move? Do you enjoy a game that's set in a post-apocalyptic zombie world? And do you enjoy crafting weapons and gear, managing relationships, and building structures and other survival and RPG elements to tackle the enemies that come your way? If so, then you might be interested in a game called Urban Strife that's due for release in a few days. It's been on my radar for some time, and the devs were kind enough to send me a key. So coming up, I'll be sharing with you my first impressions of the game, some good, some bad. Like, I really did enjoy some of the combat sections, and those RPG elements seem really promising. However, it still needs some tweaks in the gameplay departments, and there are some audio and visual aspects that I didn't understand, and honestly, they really did leave me with a sour taste in my mouth. But let's jump in to see why over 11,000 people are following this game and see if it'll be worth your time when it comes out. So what is Urban Strife all about? From the Steam page, the devs have this to say. Urban Strife is an old school turn-based strategy, post-apocalyptic survival, and RPG. Recruit deranged locals in your militia, ally local factions, and fight those you hate. Haul loot back and rebuild your shelter, doctor your wounds, and fix your guns. People need feeding, booze needs brewing, and there is an end of the world to enjoy. The game was announced a few years back in 2022, and after a Steam Next Fest demo, people seem generally interested in a game that blends turn-based elements from the likes of XCOM or Jagged Alliance with some survival and base building elements too that really caught my eye. I mean, damn, getting revved up on logistics and town planning are my zombie post-apocalyptic kinks, and I was keen to see more. So next I'll cover the gameplay as well as that combat to see if these devs are going to be able to get you immersed in this gripping flesh-eating escapade. You start as a mysterious patient who has been evacuated by the CDC from their Atlanta lab, and almost from the get-go you're already thrust into some action. Something to take note is that if you're not in combat, you can just walk around freely, so you can heal up, reload, craft, and more before jumping into your next encounter. Now, I love turn-based games, and while Urban Strife brings some interesting mechanics to the table here, I did struggle to get immersed in that combat. If you've played games like XCOM or Jagged Alliance or any similar turn-based games, you'll know exactly what to expect here. During your turn, you'll get to do various actions from movement to attacking to healing your comrades. However, this uses up your action points or AP at such a rapid rate, it's ridiculous. It makes encounters more intense, and it really ups the strategy here. Where a game like Gears Tactics is all gas no brakes, Urban Strife is more like Phoenix points turned up to 100, and for me, not really in a good way. Your AP meter drains so fast, I mean, just thinking out loud just drains it. I mean, I'm kidding, but the game never really tells you if you're going to have enough. Maybe I missed something during the tutorial, but for example, if you want to run towards the enemy and then shoot, you might get there and then realize you can't do anything, and that's not fun. The game also includes this horde mechanic where these zombies can all move at you at once, trying to keep up that momentum, which is cool, but my gosh, each encounter besides that just felt like it dragged on for hours. I don't know, maybe I was playing too passively, but I do think that the devs here need to work on the balancing, as I didn't really enjoy running into fights as I didn't know what enemies would appear, or if I'd have enough action points to actually do anything. And speaking of the enemies, yeah, the AI does not hold back in this game. They can just appear randomly during combat, so you never really know how many enemies they are, where they're going to come from, or what they can and can't see. Maybe this is a way of making the game more realistic. Like in real life, you wouldn't really know how many zombies are around the next corner, but it just gets really annoying very quickly here, especially when it comes to getting injured or dying. You see, the thing is, dying in this game really sucks. If your main character dies, it's game over. No restarts, no revival, nada. If you didn't save right before an intense battle, well, it sucks to be you. Relying on that autosave feature is cool and all, but if you do need a restart, you most likely have to go through some really lengthy dialogue that came before it, and yeah, I just feel like that's a bit unnecessary here. But overall, the combat isn't bad. You get precise aiming like you do in Phoenix points, which I think is really cool. You can like aim for the head or the body, and the changes in color dictates the chances of hitting that certain body part. You also get the ability to change your stance to do cool stuff like sneak past enemies, but I feel like this is let down by the AI, which will either do some really weird movements that don't always make sense, But like I said, you really need to enjoy strategy in a turn-based game like this, so planning your moves and positions are really crucial here, especially when cover is limited. But the best part, my favorite part of this game so far, is after you kill everyone, some people don't die, they're just knocked out. And you can't finish the mission without everyone being dead. So what do? Well, you get to run around shooting or stabbing people in the head. It's a weird anticlimax after you narrowly survive these intense gunfights. There are a whole bunch of weapons to choose from though. They're really cool and they all keep in line with the zombie apocalypse scene, ranging from crossbows to shotguns to melee weapons like rolling pins with spikes on them. The game also totes some real ballistics, which again is really cool. Like if you use a shotgun, there's a chance of hitting multiple enemies in one go, and those melee weapons are really handy when those zombies are up close. And like I mentioned, you can craft for days here, so making unique weapons on the fly can also be very useful. But once you've finished off stabbing everyone in the head, you want to be collecting all those precious resources and the loot and taking it back to your base, because that's where the real RPG and survival elements are going to kick into high gear. And this is a big part of the game, as once you get back, you can start now donating those items to the various NPCs depending on what facilities they run. And this gets more intense as the days go by, because you need to be setting up for a zombie horde that is coming your way. And to make things easier or a bit more challenging, there are three main factions that you can actually ally with. There are these cultists, there's these angry bikers, and you even get the military involved. But coming up, I'll cover the visual and sound design as well as that performance, as yeah, there's a lot to unpack here and some of it really let me down during my gameplay. First up, we have to discuss the elephant in the room, that AI art, or at least the remnants of it. The devs stated that there's over 200 profile images that they needed to make, and I'm assuming with a limited budget this was not easy for them. They mentioned that they'll replace these over time as to prevent delays in production, so hopefully they'll do it soon. As yeah, I just really wasn't a fan of them and it kind of broke that immersion. I mean, just seeing everyone so shiny and cheerful just, I don't know, didn't make sense. But if you can look past that, the in-game visuals are not too bad. I'll admit I enjoyed poking my camera around to see the rundown houses and other derelict buildings, and it's cool to zoom in and out to see the various sections of the environment. But overall the visuals are not bad and a little rough around the edges, but for a small studio I can look past a few of those things I mentioned. But then there's the audio. The music is okay, there's nothing to write home about here. And I'll admit it gets a bit monotonous, but I guess it fits with the look and feel of the game. But I do hope that they add a few more songs to add to that variety soon, especially during the intense combat. But then you discover the voice acting, or the lack thereof. Picture this, you and your buddies are stuck in this intense post-apocalyptic world, zombies around every corner waiting to rip your flesh apart, your food resources dwindling, you haven't showered in weeks, and the only hope you have remaining is whatever happens next, you hope you're not going to die. What do you think you or one of your friends would say when you come up to a horde of flesh-eating zombies or killer rednecks willing to erase you from this hellhole?
What?
Okay.
Lucy ready?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes, dear?
Yep.
All right. All right.
Ammo out! Need reload!
Yep. I don't feel like it.
Here!
I often forgot that I was in this post-apocalyptic zombie experience here. However, if we look at the performance, it does a decent job. I mean, I did encounter quite a few bugs, like 3 crashes, and there's one time I had to restart the whole game because I couldn't find the enemies in the first level after running around like a fool for 20 minutes. But for the most part, it held up, and I assume that these bugs will be ironed out soon, I hope. And speaking of hope, that leads me to my final thoughts and the future of this game. And so after all of this, I still believe that there is a good game hidden under all of these issues. And to be honest, I did have some moments of enjoyment. Yes, it was behind squinted eyes and a lot of patience, but every now and then I felt like I was transported back to the time when The Walking Dead was actually a good show, except this time I was in control. My advice would be to give the devs some time to flesh out some of that enemy AI, the bug fixing, the balancing, and of course all of that AI art and sound design. I'm always rooting for small team indie game devs, and here is no different, and I really wish them all the best. And I do hope to revisit Urban Strife again soon. What are your thoughts? Are you going to get the game? Let me know in the comment section below, as I always enjoy hearing your feedback. But other than that, it's Marco here from Easily Distracted Games, and as always, don't stop gaming.